5 ways to open up a padlock without using the key. Now, of course, the key is the fastest and probably the most reliable way to open up a lock, but it's certainly not the only way. Regular viewers of my channel would have seen me picking all sorts of locks, low security to high security. So it goes to show there are other ways than the key to get into it. But in this video, we're not using the key and we're not using picking. We're going to use some kind of bypass method to get into the padlock. Padlocks are made up of many moving parts that all need to work together to get the lock open. So what we're going to do is we are going to look at different ways to exploit weaknesses at different points in that chain of security to see if we can get the lock open. Padlock shims are a fast and reliable way to get into some cheap padlocks. Let me show you how they work. I've got this clear acrylic padlock, and as you can see, it's locked. If I turn the key, the shackle pops open and it's unlocked. But what's stopping that shackle from popping out? Well, it's actually these 2 brass locking pulls, which are controlled by the key. As you can see, as I turn the key there, you can see that one retracting, and if I turn the key both ways, you probably see both of them retracting. So in order to open up this padlock using these shims, we need to get them down between the shackle and the locking pulls. I take one of these shims and put it in one side, and that should pop one of the locking pulls out of the way. I do it on the other side, and hopefully the shackle should open up just that quick, almost as fast as using the key. Let's try it on another padlock. So I've got another padlock here. This one's locked. I put one of these padlock shims in this side, and there we go. We only needed one shim on that one and we got it open. Let's try it again on this little Robur padlock. A little bit smaller this one, but I think there's room to get these shackle shims in. There we go. We'll just get the second one in, force them both down, give the shackle a pull, and we got that one open too. This is a bypass knife. It's a commercially available one, but essentially it's just a straight piece of metal with a sort of spike at the end. It's pretty stiff as well, so it doesn't bend. The way this works is we reach into the back of the lock, dig it into that locking pull or underneath it, and just manoeuvre it out of the way. Let me demonstrate it on this little padlock here. So as you can see, it works just fine, but I'm going to get this knife, feel into the back of the keyway, all the way past the pins. There's a little hole down there, and if I just give it a wiggle, we open up the shackle. Happens really quick on these, blink and you'll miss it. There we go, we got that one open. Let's try that on this little matlock brass padlock. So once again, we reach into the back of the lock, past all the pins, feel for that locking pull, and there we go. We got that one open. I'm going to use this thin piece of metal to open up this padlock, and let me explain how I'm going to do it. If we look at this cutaway of a lock, you can see that when the key goes in, there's a series of pins inside that kind of go up and down. And you can see that the gap between each of those pin stacks, when I put the correct key in, they all line up, all in a line, and that central section is allowed to turn, and that's what causes the shackle to open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in with this hair grip, and I'm going to lift each pin in turn. And as I lift it up, I'm going to find that gap with this piece of metal, pushing it in from the front until I can get it all the way to the back. Once it's in that position, I can reach in with a screwdriver, turn that central section, and we should be able to get the padlock open. So I take our shim and I'm just going to slide it into that gap just there. And then with a little bit of pressure on my thumb, very, very lightly, I'm going to reach into the keyway with this hair grip and lift the pins up. I just felt that slide down to the first position. So I'm going to do that for all of the pins, and then we should be able to get this lock open. I think he might be there, so let's try giving this plug a turn. There we go, we got that one open. To open up this little master lock, we are going to use a Compick. They come in different sizes, and I know that this one fits this lock. They're called Compicks, but really they're just lifters. And what we're going to do is take this, reach into the keyway, lift up all of the pins and simply turn. I think with Compicks you can open locks faster than you can with the keys almost. And the good thing about them is that this particular Compick will open up every single master lock 140 that you could ever come across. Let me just explain quickly how they work. So when the key normally works in the padlock, what it does is it separates the gap between these two pins so that central part can turn. Now what a Compick does is it lifts up not only the top pin but also the bottom pin and just pushes everything completely out of the way, leaving the core free to turn. I'll show you that one more time. Reach into the keyway, lift it straight up and turn. Nice and simple. Next up, we'll take a look at Jigglers. These work really well for getting some padlocks open. Jiggler sets come in all different shapes and sizes. We're just going to select one of these, lock it into place, and then see if we can open up these two padlocks with it. So the idea is that you reach inside the keyway, you apply a bit of turning force as if you're using a key, but what you kind of want to do is wiggle them in about and jiggle them about a little bit at the same time that you're applying that turning force. And hopefully you'll just randomly jiggle the pins into the right position to get the lock open. Let's see if it works on this little master lock. So I'll reach into the keyway, give it a wiggle, give it a jiggle, all the while applying a little bit of turning force. Now sometimes this will open up really fast and other times it will take quite a while. I think that only took a few seconds really. Great tools. We front shimmed, we shackle shimmed, we jiggled, we combed and we bypass knifed our way into a fair amount of padlocks. It's worth saying that a lot of these tools, while they're commercially available, can be improvised. This is just a flat piece of metal, you know, this is just a really thin piece of metal. There's nothing too technical about these tools. It's also worth saying that bypass attacks like these, while they do work on a lot of cheaper padlocks, they won't work on high security padlocks. This is why it is always worth having a higher security padlock. Don't go to the hardware store, the DIY store, and think you can rely on a cheap lock to lock up something secure, because cheap locks are just not really secure and can be opened quite easily. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.